Okay, so now we'll move on to an overview of the Ableton Live interface. In particular, we'll be looking at Live's arrangement view, and we'll look at this in the context of a real project. So this is a house track here that I've released sometime last year. Um, and so what we see here is, as I said, Ableton Live's arrangement view. On the right-hand side over here, these are what are called tracks. And these little colored boxes over here within the arrangement timeline, these are called clips. So we have two different types of tracks. We have MIDI tracks and we have audio tracks. So if I scroll down here to this vocal track, for example, this is an audio track. And I can tell that because the clips on my track, if I look at them, and even if I double click on the top half of a clip, it's actually going to open up this window down here called the clip view window. But we can see that the clips on an audio track show us recorded audio waveforms, whereas the clips on a MIDI track, like my bass track up here, for example, this is showing me in the clip view a bunch of MIDI notes playing or triggering off of a piano roll here. So again, the tracks are over here on the right-hand side. The tracks can have clips that are kind of like little containers of musical ideas. And they might contain, a melody, a bass line, an audio loop, or recorded vocal like I have here. And on the tracks, we can also have what are called devices. So if I double click on one of these tracks, let's go up here to this lead synth track here. If I double click on the lead synth track, I see this view on the bottom called the device view. And this shows me the synthesizer, the instrument that the sound is going to be playing off of. Let me skip ahead in the arrangement here. It shows me the synthesizer, and it shows me any audio effects that might be attached to that might be processing the sound here. So again, this bottom window, we can toggle between the clip view and the device view. The bottom window here is called the detail view. We can toggle these two different views by clicking these tabs down here in the lower right corner. So here's my device view, here's my clip view. The one that is active will have this little yellow highlight on this arrow button here. And we can actually open both of these up if we want to. So now I see the clip view up here and then the device view down here. If I want to close these down, I can click these yellow arrows. I can also use the hotkeys Option Command 3 to open the clip view. Option Command 4 will open the device view. That's going to be Alt Control 3 and 4 on a PC. So we mentioned the clips and the tracks over here. It's also worth noting that when I click on something in Live, it has this sort of like blue highlight, and that means that that is selected. So if I were to double click on it, it's going to open here my device view, right? If I click on this clip here, but then I double click it, I can see the clip view down here. So yeah, it's worth noting whenever you click on something and you see this kind of bluish highlight, it means that it is selected, and certain hotkeys and certain mouse clicks are going to do something with that particular thing, whether it's a clip, a track, a device, etc., etc. Let me close my detail view down here. Let's talk about over here on the far left-hand side, upper left corner, we have a button here. This is going to open the browser. We're going to go through the browser in a future video, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it here, but we can open and close the browser using that button up here, or we can press Option Command B, think B for browser, or Alt Control B on a PC. We also have our what are called transport controls up here, our play, stop, and record buttons here. So I can hit the stop button to stop the playback. I can hit the play button to start the playback again. Now, why did it start from this random point right here? Well, it's not totally random. The playback will start back up from wherever we last clicked on the arrangement grid here. So if I click anywhere on the arrangement grid, let's click right here, for example, I see this little blinking blue line. This is called an insert marker. And this is where playback is going to start from. This is kind of like the area we currently have selected right now. So if I hit play, it'll start right from that point. If I want to reset the insert marker back to the beginning of the arrangement to play from the beginning of the song, I can double click the stop button up here. That resets the insert marker. We can kind of see it highlighted here. And then if I hit play, we'll start right from the top, right from the beginning of the arrangement. So let's say I'm playing through some of the arrangement. Let's say I want to skip ahead. If I move my mouse above the topmost track in my arrangement, you'll see that my mouse cursor turns into a little speaker icon. And if I click, it'll scrub to that position in the arrangement. I can kind of skip around through the arrangement like that. And let's say I stop right here. And then I'm like, you know what? I want to pick up playback right from the point where I stopped. You can hold Shift and press spacebar to continue playback from there. The spacebar, by the way, is kind of like the universal key for starting and stopping. So I hit spacebar once, it's going to stop. If I hit it again, it's going to start playback at the insert marker. But if I'm somewhere further ahead in the arrangement, I can stop it and then hold Shift and press spacebar to continue playback from that point. Most of the other controls up here, we're going to sort of go through those as they become relevant, so I'm not going to go through every single thing right now. It is worth mentioning, though, that at the top of the arrangement, we also have this, what's called the loop brace here. This is pretty important. You'll probably be using this a lot as you're writing songs and arranging songs. These are brackets that we can extend or shrink down by grabbing the left edge or the right edge like this. And if I set the loop brace up, let's go just a short section here. We'll set it up maybe from bar 25 to 27 here. If I set up the loop brace and then I make sure this loop button up here is turned on, so it's highlighted in yellow, if I hit play, it's going to start from the beginning of the loop brace and it's just going to continue to loop that selection of the arrangement that I'm working with. I can turn this loop button off and it'll just continue to play outside the loop brace. It'll stop looping it. I can also set the loop brace up anywhere in my arrangement by selecting time on the arrangement grid. So if I, for example, click and drag across a piece of the arrangement or a section of the arrangement, you see again, we've got that blue highlight there. If I press Command or Control L, it will set the loop brace right around that time selection. It also turns the loop brace on if it was turned off before, which it was. I can also do this really quickly on a clip. So this is kind of cool. If I, for example, click on a clip, let's say this pad clip right here, you see it's highlighted that entire MIDI clip, and then I press Command L, it'll move the loop brace to surround that clip, that time selection there, and it'll turn the loop brace on again if it was turned off. So the loop brace is going to be important, as I said, as you start arranging more and maybe you're trying to refine, I'm working on the drop of my song and I need to figure out a new part to add or whatever. Loop brace is really, really important for auditioning parts repeatedly. Over on the far right side here, we have our mixer controls. So these are going to be things like a mute button, a solo button, a record arm button, and then volume and pan controls for each of my different tracks. So let's say, for example, let's play this section here. And let's say I want to mute the vocals track. I can go down to this vocals one. That's going to be playing again right here. I can just click this 12 button. That's for track 12. That's deactivating the track or muting it basically. If I wanted to solo the bass track, I can click on the bass track here and then just click the S, the solo button. That's going to temporarily mute everything else until I uncheck it. So mute, solo, record arm. We'll look at the record arm functionality when we talk about recording MIDI and audio clips. Volume here, if I'm like, you know what, this bass is just too loud, I need to turn it down, I can click and drag my volume fader down here. We can also show the mixer in the arrangement view by pressing Option, Command, or Alt, Control, M. That's going to open up the mixer view down here, so I can see my volume faders here as well. Let me scroll to that bass track again. Where was it? Right here, right? So if I click on that, we see it's selected right here. Here's my bass track. Here's the bass track here. I have the volume at -7. If we look here and I move my mouse here, you can actually see in the status bar down here, it says track volume -7. So this is just going to mirror the controls that we see up here in the mixer. It's just a different way of looking at it. I'm going to close the mixer by hitting Option Command M again. I think one other thing I want to point out here is on the very bottom left-hand corner, we have this info view. And this is actually really useful, especially if you're new to Live, because you can see here, if I move my mouse over anything, if I even move my mouse over the info view, it tells me what it is. The info view provides a brief description of the user interface element that the mouse is currently over. So I can move my mouse over anything and it'll give me a little description of what that is. So here it tells me that this is a MIDI clip, or if I go up or down here to my vocal track, it tells me that this is an audio clip. If I move over here, it tells me that this is the track title bar, this is the track activator, the solo cue button, etc. So it's really, really handy if you're, like I said, if you're new to the software and you're just kind of learning these new things and these new terms and everything. But even if you've been using Live for a long time, I've been using Ableton Live for 15 plus years now, and I still find myself opening the info view to find out like a particular control on a synthesizer or an audio effect, what that does. So it's very, very handy. We can open and close it again by clicking this I button down here or pressing Shift ? That'll open and close that info view. Let's close my device view. I guess one last thing we'll mention while we're here is up in the top right corner, we have the arrangement view and the session view toggle up here. We have an entire course on the session view in a few lessons from now, a few units from now. So I'm not going to go deep into the session view right now, but we can toggle between these two main views up here. We can also press the tab key to toggle between those views. And while I'm mentioning hotkeys, it's worth mentioning that the device view down here, I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but if I want to toggle between the clip view and the device view, I can press Shift and Tab, and that'll flip the bottom window between those two different windows. That particular hotkey has saved me lots of time over the years using Live, because you're always down here messing with either effects or synthesizers or whatever, or going into your clips and adjusting MIDI notes or making edits. So yeah, Shift Tab will toggle between those two different detail views, the device view and the clip view over here. I think that'll do it for the basic interface. We'll move on to the next video, and I will see you there.